Welcome to Speed in Color, a podcast and YouTube channel about custom motorcycle culture. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to get all the latest content. You can also follow Speed in Color on Instagram. We hope you enjoy the show.
Hi there, welcome to Speed in Color. Let's talk about lithium batteries. I don't know if you've had questions about them. I was sure wondering about them, and for building bikes, I gotta tell you, I think they're the answer. Lead acid, heavy, larger, some concerns with spillage and, tipping it and mounting and everything else. Lithium batteries, all those problems go away. Man, these things are small and light, and you can mount them any way you want. It's really a great technology. Before we get started on this though, I do want to make sure that everybody understands I am not sponsored by Antigravity Batteries. Antigravity Batteries did not pay me to do this. They didn't give me the batteries. I purchased this stuff. I have determined for me that anti-gravity batteries are the best lithium option out there. They have great tech support. They've been wonderful people to deal with. They have taken an interest in me because of the podcast, but they have not paid me or supported me in any way to do this podcast. Just want to make sure everybody understands that going in. As I say, anti-gravity batteries, I chose them. I have used competitive brands or a competitive brand. Was not impressed with the support I got on that. Really, they didn't seem to know how to answer my questions or know the answers. And that, that's difficult. When you're using new technology, you need somebody who can help you out. Anti-gravity's been doing competition stuff and custom stuff and stock replacements, everything. And the product is proven. It's good. It works. And Anti-Gravity Batteries has a good support system. They're great people. It was definitely the right choice for me. So that's why I'm using Anti-Gravity Batteries. What I want to talk to you about first is the difference in lithium technologies. You'll notice that anti-gravity, and is it on here? Sorry, I just got to look. Yeah, they say right here, high power lithium-ion battery. I have to tell you, and because I'm not sponsored by them or paid by them or anything, I can tell you this. The lithium-ion, this is not a lithium-ion battery. This is a lithium iron phosphate battery. All anti-gravity batteries, according to what they told me, are lithium iron phosphate. And we're going to go over the difference between lithium ion and lithium iron phosphate. Anti-gravity batteries kind of considers lithium ion to be kind of an overall reference to lithium technology. I prefer to just call it lithium. They call it lithium ion. It's fine. As long as we know what we're doing, we're in good shape. So lithium ion versus lithium iron phosphate. What's the difference in these technologies? Well, from everything I've learned, I've done a little bit of research, and I'm certainly not an engineer, and I'm not a scientist, and I'm not a chemist or a physicist or any kind of battery specialist. I'm just a guy who builds stuff. And for me, as I say, this technology is great, and I'll show you why in a bit here. But I wanted to look into this and figure it out. So lithium-ion, I think, was probably the first of the technologies. And lithium-ion has a lot of energy density. So it has really good energy per weight measurement. what am I talking about? Lithium-ion is 150 to 200 watt hours per kilogram. You don't need to know what that really means. It's just a good reference, just a good measuring stick. Lithium iron phosphate, in comparison, is about 90 to 120 watt hours per kilogram. So not as much energy per unit of weight. That said, lithium iron phosphate makes lots of power in a battery. There's no issue that way. Another area where lithium iron phosphate has the advantage is in longevity. So the life of a battery is measured in cycles. A cycle is discharge and recharge. And the number of cycles for a lithium-ion battery is 500 to 1,000. The number of cycles for a lithium iron phosphate battery is 1,000 to 10,000, depending on the conditions. That's a big difference. That makes a real difference in a battery that really, for the money you're going to spend, you'd sure like to get 5+ years out of that battery, and you'll do it with lithium iron phosphate. The stability of lithium iron phosphate. So you've heard all kinds of stuff about lithium ion exploding, catching fire, all that kind of stuff. There's something called thermal runaway, and I guess because of the energy density of the lithium ion and their susceptibility to heat, they don't work well in a hot environment or when they generate heat. If you overcharge a lithium ion battery, you can drive it into thermal runaway. And again, if that's not absolutely correct and somebody who really knows this stuff is watching, feel free to correct me. Like I say, I'm just talking in layman's terms here. My understanding is that lithium ion is not as stable as the lithium iron phosphate. Lithium iron phosphate typically does not get into thermal runaway because it handles heat much better than lithium ion. So it's more stable, and that makes it safer for the kind of stuff we're doing. Lithium iron phosphate is not toxic or non-toxic. Lithium ion uses, I believe it's cobalt dioxide, which makes it toxic, and it's classed as, I believe it's classed as a hazardous material for disposal. That increases cost of getting rid of the battery, creates issues for disposing of the battery and everything. Lithium iron phosphate does not contain cobalt dioxide. It is not toxic, and it's not classed as a hazardous material. That makes it less expensive to dispose of and easier to dispose of. What else do we have with lithium iron phosphate? It's less expensive to produce a battery than with lithium ion. It really is, for our purposes, for vehicles, for power sports, it is a better battery technology. It's going to last longer, it's safer, it's more stable, it's going to resist heat. It's good. Maybe you're thinking, well, Bruce, what do we use lithium ion for? Lithium ion, because of the energy density, is used in mainly portable devices. So cell phones, laptops, tablets, anything like that where weight, size and weight is a real issue. That's where you're going to want to use lithium ion. That is the difference between lithium ion and lithium iron phosphate. I don't think you're going to find any vehicle application batteries out there these days that use lithium-ion. I think pretty much all of them are lithium iron phosphate now. And if I didn't say it, I will say anti-gravity batteries, they are all lithium iron phosphate. They're all very stable, very safe, great technology, and the most current technology. That explains the difference between the two common types of lithium batteries. Now, let's talk more about anti-gravity batteries. All right, anti-gravity batteries. For power sports, and I'm not going to talk about the whole product line for anti-gravity batteries because it's huge. They've got micro starts, they've got deep cycle batteries, storage batteries, automotive batteries, racing batteries, 16 volt stuff, super cool. I'm not going to go over all that stuff. I'm going to focus on power sports, and really I'm just scratching the surface on what they have. But the two main technologies, or the two different technologies that anti-gravity has developed, they have their small case batteries, and I believe these were the original kind of battery. Very, very simple battery, lots of power for the size of it, but a very simple lithium battery. Then they have their new, well, I don't know how new it is, but they have their restart technology. And restart technology comes with a what they call a BMS, a battery management system. And the battery management system and the restart technology, I think, is really cool. This is neat stuff, stuff that I don't think you can do with lead acid. Maybe you could, but nobody that I know of is doing it. So some real benefits to the restart technology. So let's talk first about the small case. This battery, and I'll go over the sizes. Actually, I'll put it in the description for you. This is not the smallest anti-gravity battery you can get. This is an AG801. I was going to go with the AG401, which is, believe it or not, an inch narrower. Is that narrow? Which way is that? Anyway, an inch narrower than this battery is. Super tiny. Boy, oh boy. An AG401, you can hide that thing under a swing arm, any little gap that you have. It just tuck under the seat. You can put them just about anywhere. In a headlight pot, you could probably fit the thing if you had to. So the 401 or 401, I think is really cool. And as I say, I was going to go that way. And Chad at Antigravity Batteries said to me, he said, the 401 will do it as long as you don't have any kind of parasitic draw. You're not using an electric starter, which I'm not on the chopper. But he said, really for the size difference, he said, I like the 801 just to give yourself that little bit extra. So if you do happen to leave the headlight on for a while or something like that, he said the 801 is going to give you a little bit of a buffer. Made sense to me. Alfred and I made up a foam block the same size as this, and we made one up as a 401 as well. And we test fit that in the location where I'm going to mount the battery. We had lots of room for both, so space for the 801 wasn't a concern. The weight difference, not huge, not that it matters on the chopper anyway. So based on Chad's recommendation, I decided to go with the 801. Again, as I said with lithium batteries, mounting this thing, you can mount it side on its side. You can mount it on its end. You can mount it upside down. You mount it on a swing arm, as I mentioned. It'll live just fine doing that. These things are great in terms of what you can do with them if you're a bike builder. This one is going to lay on its back in the location. This battery is 240 cranking amps and will give me 11 amp hours for whatever that's worth. But it will give me lots of power, and like I say, if I'm at a show and I keep turning on the headlight to show people or whatever the situation, this is going to have power for quite a while and shouldn't be an issue. That is something that I should probably talk about right now. No, I won't talk about that yet. So this battery is dead nuts simple. It is just power. It does have some technology in it or some circuitry to balance the charge in the cells, that kind of thing. But it has no overcharge protection, no over discharge protection. It is just straight power, and that's how they get it so small. This battery is a restart technology, and I believe this is the smallest restart battery available for powersports. Again, the size is really good. To give you an idea, size on this one is 4.37 inches by 2.37 inches by 3.75 and weighs in at 1.56 pounds. So, you're 3 1/4 by 2 1/4 by 3 3/4 for argument's sake. Pretty tiny. This one is 4.53 inches by 2.75 by 3.35 and weighs in at 1.3 pounds. Lighter, probably because there's not as much battery in here and there's more circuitry for the restart and for the battery management system. That would be my guess. Cool thing they do, I'm just looking at it, you get 2 positive posts and 2 negative posts. So this battery is able to be turned. You can turn it whichever, if your cables are coming up from the bottom, you're fine. Wouldn't matter if you mounted it that way, you'd be fine. So just makes it versatile, and I take it it's fairly easy to do for anti-gravity batteries, so it's a nice feature. Cranking amps on this guy is 150 cranking amps and 7 amp hours. So less punch than this little guy, but again, there's not as much battery in here, I don't think, and there is the circuitry for the BMS. So what does restart technology do for you? And again, this is very basic understanding. Anti-gravity, I hope I don't screw this up on you. Basically, restart technology monitors the battery, and this is part of the battery management system, monitors the battery, and when the battery gets to, I believe it's about 10.5 volts, it puts it into what they call a sleep mode. For me, even more basic, tells me it's monitoring the voltage, and when the voltage gets too low, it's shutting this thing off. Why is the battery voltage going down? Maybe you got a parasitic drain, maybe you left lights on, whatever. Something is draining the battery. So the BMS is saying, okay, we're as low as we should go on this battery, and it puts it into sleep mode. Now when you come back, you realize, oh, son of a gun, I left the lights on. They're not on now because the battery is shut off, but you realize what you did. All you have to do is press the restart button, and that wakes the battery back up, and at that voltage, you should have enough to start the vehicle. So it's kind of saving your behind from making that mistake that we've all made, or maybe the vehicle is left for quite a while with the radio on, or as I say, with some kind of parasitic draw. At that point, it will shut the battery off or put it into sleep mode. That's a really important thing I've learned too with lithium batteries. And these anti-gravity batteries considers 10.5 volts to be pretty much as low as you want to drain a battery, a lithium battery. The reason for that is lithium batteries are difficult to recharge if they get totally drained or drained beyond that 10.5 volts. That 10.5 volts is a safe number. You'd probably go lower than that. I don't know by how much. I think I may have read somewhere 9 volts. But 10.5 is a nice safe number. It's a good number to look at. So you really don't want to drain it below that. If you do, some batteries can be recovered. It takes a slow recharge to get them back. As long as there's no permanent damage been done by the over discharge. So there's a lot of caution involved there. I've heard of a lot of people who are doing different things to recover lithium batteries for other applications, electric scooters, that kind of stuff, or DC scooters, whatever you want to call them. But for anti-gravity, that's the number they work with, is that 10.5 volts. And as I understand it, I mean, there's the battery management system is doing other things for you, for charging and discharging, making sure you don't overcharge, making sure you don't undercharge, all that kind of stuff. But really, the restart and the battery management system work together to keep this battery from getting drained to the point where you can't use it. Cool stuff. Really on a bike, if you left your hand grip warmers on or something crazy like that, great feature to have. There is a remote system for the restart. If it's too awkward to get at this restart button, you can wire in a remote that'll allow you to reset the battery. On an adventure bike or whatever, this is a great option. And anti-gravity does make direct replacement batteries. So they line up with the measurements and everything of a stock battery, whichever one that is, and it's a direct replacement. In this case, I don't know if this is a direct replacement for anything. This, I am very sure, is not a direct replacement for anything. This is strictly a competition, custom kind of application. That's the difference in the anti-gravity batteries. Let me just check my notes and see if there was anything else I was going to tell you. Capacity, we got applications. Cautions for the small case batteries. Because there is no real protection system in there, you do have to make sure that you take care of that battery properly. You don't want to drain it below that 10.5 volts. You need to make sure your charging system is in good condition. You're not getting any voltage spikes, stuff like that out of your charging system. We'll talk more about that in a minute. You want to treat this battery right. Probably, I keep mine on a charger all the time on the Sportster. just whenever I'm not riding it, whenever it's in the garage, I just plug it in. That way I know that battery is always maintained at a full charge, no issue, not going to have to worry about it. That's the kind of thing you should probably do with the small case battery. That addresses that. We'll talk more about chargers and some of the other things that you should know about using a lithium battery. Let's talk a bit about charging lithium batteries. Lithium batteries, lithium iron phosphate, we'll say. It was interesting. I had a young guy say to me here a while ago, he said, "Oh, I'm not going to use a lithium battery because," he said, "if your regulator goes, you'll have a fire. It'll explode the battery and you'll have a fire." And I thought, wow, okay. I guess that's possible and stuff. Looking into it and talking to the folks at Antigravity Batteries, there is a very real possibility of that happening. And what the main cause of that is old charging systems. So if you have a bike that is pretty much pre-1995, the charging system, you're going to want to check it out really well. And if it has an old style regulator that is mechanical rather than solid state, you want to replace that regulator. You want to get a solid state regulator in there. The problem being that those old style regulators that are mechanical, the contacts stick, different things happen, and they give voltage spikes. And voltage spikes, lead acid batteries handle voltage spikes really well. As a matter of fact, I believe that's what they use when they desulfate the plates or whatever. Lead acid battery chargers, that's one of the things they do, is some of them will have a desulfate setting. That's what it does, is it applies voltage spikes to the battery. Those are really bad for lithium batteries. So you don't want that happening. That said, Antigravity tells me most of the issues with battery problems are going to be voltage regulator related, and it's going to be Harley-Davidsons and Japanese motorcycles pre-95. Anything with those mechanical regulators. If you're running current technology, even on an old XS650, if you've put a new charging system on it, which a lot of us do, you're going to be fine. You just want to make sure that that regulator is good, that the voltage output is constant. I think they're looking for 14 volts roughly from the charging system, but that it's stable with no spikes. That's the biggest thing. Really, lithium iron phosphate batteries are compatible with any current automotive charging system. They work just fine. So those myths can be put to rest. We're really talking about old stuff. And if you're doing a vintage bike and you really want to run that old style regulator, run a lead acid battery. Lithium's probably not the answer for that. But if it's a custom application, if it's an update, whatever, then lithium is just great with the current charging systems. The other thing in terms of charging, I mentioned to you that I put the charger on the Sportster all the time. Do not use a battery charger intended for lead acid batteries. Technology isn't the same. They don't work quite the same. The recommended charger is Optimate. This one happens to be from Honda. But Optimate is the preferred charger, and I believe Antigravity Batteries recommends this on their website. So this charger has some intelligence in it. It can test the battery, it checks it. It has a a maintenance mode that maintains the battery. That's why I'm not afraid to leave this plugged in all the time, because it's constantly monitoring the battery and, you know, maintaining it at the proper levels and everything. So I don't have to worry at all. Nice piece, not a ton of money, well worth doing if you're going to run a lithium battery. So that's the charger. I'll just put that down there so it doesn't fall down. And we've talked about why you shouldn't drain a lithium battery. Storing your anti-gravity battery. These batteries do very well with long-term storage. So if there's no parasitic draw, and I checked with anti-gravity and they said best bet is full charge, disconnected, put it on the shelf. Anti-gravity said 3 months, no problem. All the specs that I read online say typically more like a year. So no problem there. As a matter of fact, lithium-ion, I think they said 300 days. Lithium iron phosphate, 350 days of shelf life. So real good that way. But as I say, go ahead, make sure it's charged right up. You don't want to store it in a discharged state. That's not going to do you any good. Mounting. And that's our final topic. So mounting this battery, I picked up one of these. These are available on the Antigravity website. They have lots of different battery mounts, and of course to accommodate all the sizes and everything else. This one, I believe, is from Lead Sled. I think I saw a decal in there. This is going to work really nice in the location that I'm putting it, down under the transmission, under the gearbox section of the engine. Laid flat like that, should be really easy to build some mounts off the frame. That'll make that nice. These screws tend to really tighten up in here. And I will say, little advice for Lead Sled. This plate doesn't fit as nicely as I would have liked it to. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe I can zoom in on that. The holes are not centered for the holes on the case. And if you squeeze the case together, you can get it to line up, and that's why the screw was so tight there to move. But if you look at the way this thing is bent, you really shouldn't have to squeeze it. It's kind of odd that way. The other thing I noticed about this mount, and again, hopefully I'll be able to show you that, Lead Sled should really invest in either sharpening their countersink bit or getting a new one, because it kind of did more burning into the aluminum than it did actually cutting. You know, the thing is okay, it's bent properly. It fits the battery just fine. As a matter of fact, it's nice and snug in there. I'm sure when I get that top plate on, it'll be nice and tight that way. Lets you see the name. This will lay down there. You will be able to see it if you look down towards the bottom of the engine. And I'll put it in place and show you. I'll get a picture of it. You know, nice light mount, fits the battery well. It's okay. I think production quality could be tweaked a little bit just to make it a little bit nicer, but it's going to work fine. It'll be all right. Like I say though, there's a whole bunch of different battery mounts available from Antigravity. They're all on their website. Antigravity has all kinds of accessories. Also, Antigravity has some really good videos on batteries. If you're looking to learn more about lithium, the characteristics of it and how to work with it, lots of videos there. I'm going to put a bunch of links. Well, I shouldn't say that. I'm going to put all the links I can in the description below and link you over to their YouTube channel or their website to some of the videos that I found useful. Yeah, so that's pretty much everything on anti-gravity and lithium batteries. I hope this is helpful for you. As I said at first, I'm sold. I just think it's fantastic. Finding a place for that on a chopper is pretty simple. And this made my decision on the electrics for the XS650. We're going to go with an electronic ignition, battery, and a moto gadget. The moto gadget will be pretty easy to hide as well. Wiring will be minimal, but it'll make for a pretty slick system and pretty dependable. So that's great. I'll put a picture of this in its mounting position. I won't have it mounted, but I'll just hold it in place there so you can see it. And yeah, we'll move on. I think I've got some extra time on this episode, so I think I'll throw in a little bit about the seat. I learned some things about mounting a solo seat on the XS650 that I think are really interesting, and I think I'll just tag that on the end of this episode. So let me go and do a little video of that as well. All right, we'll give this another shot here. So this is going to mount right up in here. And it's going to be easy enough to get a tab on the frame, a couple tabs to mount this with. Because I'm running kickstart only, we do a starter motor delete kit, which blocks off the hole in there, makes all this room under here. So this is real nice. I can tuck this up nice and high. It's above the bottom of the frame rails. I guess you won't get to see much of the battery. I was hoping you could see more of it. And the other thing is, I'm thinking that if I want to hide the wiring, I can just drill a hole into the backbone here and take my wiring straight into the backbone and up, and that'll be pretty slick. So that's where I'm going to mount the anti-gravity battery. I don't think I have room to go this way. I'm pretty sure, no, I don't. No, and the backbone would be in the way. So I don't like it that way anyway. I do really like it tucked up in here like this, though. I think that's going to be just great. So that's where that's going to go. All right, onto the seat. All right, I really wanted to show you this. I learned something about mounting a solo seat with hairpins that I think is really cool. And part of the reason I'm sharing this, I encountered a problem with this, and I searched the internet. I found all kinds of forums, all kinds of posts, guys having exactly the same problem and no explanation for it, no fix for it. So let me run through this with you, and hopefully I can make it make sense. And between the camera angles, I can show you what's going on here. So I got the front mount done for the seat here. Tim was over, gave me a hand with it. We got it all welded up. Everything was good. And I decided that I was going to use chrome hairpins, 3-inch hairpins. Really good, no issue there. And Tim did a beautiful job of helping me with the mounts here. His TIG welding is absolutely great. So I got this on, and I was talking to a guy, and he said to me, when you put the hairpins on, and now okay, I will say originally the hairpins I had mounted with the V, if you will, or with the coil out the back. And he said to me, he said, when you put the hairpins on, make sure you leave one side loose. One side being either top or bottom. And I said, well, why do you do that? And he said, well, it won't spring if you don't leave either side loose. And I thought, that doesn't seem to be quite right, but okay. And of course, being who I am, I put the hairpin in and I tightened up top and bottom. I'll tell you what, you might as well weld this seat to the chassis when you do that, because it does not move. And I went and like I say, I read forums. There are guys saying, I'm 260 pounds and I can't move that seat at all. There's no spring to it. There's no bounce to it. Another guy, I'm 300 pounds and mine doesn't flex. And I read all this stuff and I thought, what the heck is going on? So I thought, well, maybe I just need to read the installation instructions. So I went to, and I'll try to remember who it was I went to, but I found somebody who makes these, and I went to their installation instructions, and they showed them coming out the back, same deal, everything was good, but they had a pivot that mounted on the frame mount. They had this pivot, and I thought, well, why? It just seemed odd having this pivot when you have a sprung seat. Like, I didn't understand it. So anyway, but essentially they were doing the same thing I'm doing, except instead of bolting this one right here, this bottom one firm, they were putting a pivot point on here. And so I came out the next morning and I looked at this and I thought, what the heck is going on? So I remembered the guy who told me to leave one side loose. I loosened the top bolt, backed it off a couple threads, boing, 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 spring worked, right? And I thought, but that's crazy. I don't want to have to Loctite these top bolts, and if that's loose, it's going to scratch the hell out of the paint and out of the chrome and everything else. And then I thought, well, maybe leather washers would give it enough room to move or something, or allow it to slide. And I thought, okay, I'll put leather washers on it. Well, I put the leather washers on. That didn't make any difference. And then I remembered a post I read, and I should try and find, not that it matters, I should try and find the young man's name, but he's a student of Teach. Teach is, what's his first name? Kevin Bass, teacher in the States who teaches a shop class. Part of the curriculum or option is to build an old school chopper. Anyway, he's one of Teach's students, and he referred to mounting these hairpins, and he had them going out the back as well, but he said, we mounted them backwards. And that kind of stuck in my head. I didn't understand, especially seeing how installation instructions show it coming out the back. I didn't understand what he meant by we mounted them backwards. So as I was sitting here looking at it, I was trying to, and I'm not a physics major or anything, I'm not an engineer, but I was looking at this trying to figure it out. And I thought, well, there's a pivot point here, and the seat, when it moves, and if you exaggerate it, it moves on an arc. So it moves on a curve. And I thought, okay, so the seat's moving on a curve, but if you have these springs coming out the back, the springs compress in an arc this way. So essentially, you have opposite arcs trying to work against each other. The mounting points are trying to work two different ways. And I guess if you were to analyze it physics-wise, what you're really trying to do is you're not going to be able to compress the spring because you can't the seat's not going to go on the arc of the spring, but what you're trying to do is bend this straight piece off the mount. That's the only give in that spring when it's mounted like that, is in the actual straight piece. And this is pretty stout stuff. You're not going to bend that much. So I determined that it was these opposing arcs that was preventing the seat from being able to move. And I thought, well, that should be a fairly simple fix. If I turn this spring 180 degrees and put it under here, then now we're working with two arcs that are going in the same direction. And believe it or not, that fixes the problem. This seat works beautifully now. So, because I couldn't find the answer on the web, I'm going to share that with you guys. That appears to be the fix. Everybody who's mounting these springs out the back, I don't know how you're making it work. Well, leaving it loose will work. But I believe the proper way to mount these hairpins is to bring them forward and have them under the seat. There's Bruce's tech tip for this week. Hey, hope you enjoyed the episode. Hope you learned something about anti-gravity batteries, lithium iron phosphate. Hope this is worthwhile for somebody out there who's trying to make this work. You know, if you like what you're watching, please hit subscribe. Give me a like, a thumbs up, ring the bell, turn on notifications. I'm going to do a build stuff episode on this as well, because I think it's worth sharing that way too. Check me out on Instagram. Really appreciate all of you. Hope that we can keep going with this. Hope that you find it worthwhile. And hey, build safe, ride safe, be cool. We'll see you soon.